Looks like we lost Emma. All right, Emma, whenever you're ready to start.
Yes, thank you. My apologies for that. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for attending our webinar for today. We are so excited to welcome our speakers. Our speakers are on, correct?
Yes, they're on.
Okay. We are very, very excited to welcome our speakers for today. AJ, of course. AJ, hi, how are you?
Oh, good. I'm doing well.
AJ Vasquez from Operation Safe House, and also Beth Bartholomew with RCOE. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and speak with us. We are very much appreciative of you taking the time to educate us on this subject. Please go ahead and start.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for that introduction. You guys have the PowerPoint, or do I need to bring it up on my computer?
I do. You should have it up now. Does everyone see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay. And just wanted to add, November is National Runaway Prevention Month, a public awareness campaign designed to shine a light on the experiences of runaways and homeless youth that too often remain invisible. It is also an opportunity to spotlight the resources available to support youth in crisis throughout the nation. And I'm proud that we have two wonderful organizations that assist with runaway youth to share their programs with you today. Go ahead, AJ.
Perfect. Okay. So once again, my name is AJ Vasquez. I'm a field manager for the street outreach program for the Western region of Riverside County for Operation Safe House. Also on the call is my partner, Beatrice Meza. She's part of the street outreach team. I just wanted to take a quick few moments and just kind of go through Operation Safe House, what we do, who we are, and how we assist homeless youth or runaway youth. But just a couple quick things before we get started on Safe Place. One thing that I've learned in my time as a street outreach worker, especially somebody that focuses on the youth and age homeless individuals, is there's always that common thought that, teens that run away, homeless youth are running away because they're, being rebellious. They're not allowed to live their truth or whatever the case is at home, right? But that's not always the case. What we've found in our experience is that these youth are choosing to run away or be on the streets because it's, for lack of a better phrase, it's safer than being at home. A lot of these youth that are running away from a situation, whether it's a physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse. And again, they're in their minds, being out in the streets is a lot safer option than being at home with their abuser. So when we approach youth, we approach anybody and everybody. It doesn't matter if they're dressed to the nines or if they look like they just, have been living under, a bridge or down the river bottom for several months. Homeless youth, especially, will try their best to avoid being found in terms of, not only in terms of actually physically being located, but as far as their appearance goes as well. The reason being is there's that stigma that goes along with being labeled as, a homeless youth or, a runaway, and if you remember back in your high school days, if you got a label, how hard was it to shake that label, right? So a lot of these youth will do anything in their power to hide the fact that they're either running away from home, that they're living in their car, or are homeless. And that could be, still going to school every day because, hey, maybe that might be the only time they can ever get a chance to eat their, get food. Or, they're going to be dressed and showered properly. They're going to get that 24-hour fitness membership so they can use access to the showers. Except they're going to do anything in their power to kind of hide the fact of what's going on. So when my teams are out and about and we're doing street outreach, we go up to anybody that looks like they're in the age range for sure. And we also talk to adults, but we always go up to anybody and everybody because you never know who might need our help, who is actually going to be a runaway or homeless. And we don't ever say, hey, you look like you're homeless. Do you need our help? Never, ever, right? So we always just go up to them, introduce ourselves, what we do, and say, do you know of anybody that might need our help? Because what that does is that puts the power into the youth to say, yeah, me. Or maybe they're too shy or don't want to, admit what's going on in front of their friends if they're hanging out with somebody. It happens quite often where we'll leave a park, we'll leave a group of individuals, and an hour later we'll get a phone call from somebody saying, hey, I just met you at the park. I didn't want to say anything, but I'm actually, I'm running away from home. I do need your help. So again, that's why I said the homeless youth, they're labeled that hidden population. So how is it possible for these youth to get connected to us, to Operation Safe House, when we're not, actively doing street outreach? One way is through the National Safe Place program. Now, I'm sure that most of us haven't seen or at least been aware of what the Safe Place program is, but we've all come across at least the photo or the picture of the Safe Place. It's on the side of every RTA bus in the county, and it's on the side of every Sunline bus out in the desert region. And what this does is it lets know individuals or anybody between the ages of 11 and 17 know that if they need a place to go, if they are choosing to be out on the streets and not at home, they see this logo, they can access the network and get connected to Operation Safe House. We are the only youth shelter in the county. We have a couple sites, which we'll get to here in a moment, but if you're between the ages of 11 and 17 and you need a place to go, you will end up at Operation Safe House. And so what this program is it's meant to facilitate or be able to get these youth connected to our program, to our shelters. So like I mentioned to you, it's on the side of every RTA bus. It's on most fire departments, police stations, libraries. Every public library in the Riverside County library system is a safe place. It's located on the community centers. And out in the desert, most McDonald's are labeled as safe places. So that's why these youth know that if they see that sign, they can walk in and get connected to the safe house. And as far as transportation goes, if it's during business hours, my teams, we will go pick up a youth. Or if it's after business hours, we might utilize local law enforcement to help with transportation. One way or another, all these sites are trained to get these youth connected to Operation Safe House. Next slide. So as far as housing programs or programs that we offer, like I mentioned to you before, we have the youth shelter. So can I get one more slide, please? And we have two locations. One is located here in Riverside. The other one is located in Thousand Palms, which I'll get to in one moment. But both programs are exactly the same. They're mirror images. And the programs are up to 21 days or 3 weeks for these youth to be at the shelter. And while they're there, it's like I said, we're there for them. So we're not only going to continue to provide them with services as far as like mental health counseling, continue their education and meals. We're actually going to be also trying to focus on the family and what's going on in the situation that's causing this youth to choose to run away. So we're not only giving counseling and therapy to the youth, but also to the family members as well. Because the whole goal of this program is to kind of address or fix the family dynamic of what's going on at home. So that way both the parents and the youth feel comfortable enough to be able to talk through the differences, talk through the issues, and not have a situation where this youth can become chronically homeless or end up out in the streets where they can be victimized. Because again, the streets aren't safe. There's as what I have to say, as good as my teams are to go out and try to locate these runaway youth, there are equally as good people that have nefarious purposes, that want to take advantage of the youth, that want to exploit them, that want to use them for their own, nefarious purposes. So again, the youth shelter is there. It's open 24/7, 7 days a week. Or that obviously 24/7, but it's there. So if a youth is running away like at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, 12 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, whatever time it is, we are open and able to accept those youth so that way they can have a safe place to be. And as far as beds goes, it's up to 12 beds. Due to COVID, we kind of put more of a managing limit on that, but now because COVID seems to be not going around anymore, we are able to start expanding up our numbers to, like I said, we can start filling up as many beds as possible. Next slide. Perfect. And these are just a couple pictures of the dorm settings. The Riverside shelter is set up to be more homely, more inviting since it was a home. And then the Thousand Palms, which we'll get to here in one moment, it's a newer facility. But like I mentioned to you before, these youth, they still can continue their education. That photo down at the bottom is the RCOE building. So that way these youth can still be able to keep up with their classwork and not fall too far behind. Next slide. And these are just a couple of pictures of our Thousand Palms location. So I like to say this looks more of a hotel. Super nice facility. It's pretty new, but again, it's the same program, and they're mirrored between both locations. And it is possible for, like, say, somebody a runaway youth from Corona can be at least housed in the desert. It's not, there's no geographical restrictions or anything like that. As long as you're in Riverside County and you're a youth, you can be housed at any of these two locations. We try to keep it, like I said, for COVID purposes, especially relatively even. We don't want to have one program be like at 12 and the other program be like at 2. We want to make sure that we spread out the use, so that way, like I said, we kind of try to keep COVID under control. Next slide, please. Okay. Now, what programs do we offer for transitional age youth? So the adults. So what we realized in our time doing outreach is that although our partners that run adult shelters do great job and do great work to house homeless people off of or get them off the street, we realized that a lot of the transitional age youth, or those ages between the ages of, or those clients between the ages of 18 and 24, were being targeted, were being victimized by the older population at those shelters. And quite frankly, I mean, it could be pretty easy to spot, a youth because they look like they're still, relatively young. And, they might be alone, might be the first time they've ever left their house or whatever the situation is. And like I mentioned before, there are those people that are just as equally as good to try to exploit them for whatever, nefarious purposes they have. And it could be something simple as like, hey, you hungry? Let me go buy you some McDonald's. Or let me help you. Don't go talk to that person. That person's kind of shady or whatever the case is. That might come across as, they're trying to be their friend, trying to look out for them. And then after, a few days or whatever, they're saying, hey, so, how I've been helping you, I need you to do something for me now. I need you to run this bag over to that person over there, or, and it could be filled with drugs, or they might try to get them involved with human trafficking, right? Not saying this happens all the time, but it is possible where, like I said, youth can be targeted. So we created this mainstay shelter a few years ago. And initially we had set out, I want to say, to help at least 50 homeless youth between this age range. And within the first year, we'd already doubled that. So there is a need for it. And right now since it's still technically a pilot program, it's only up to 4 beds, typically 2 males and 2 females. But the way I describe the mainstay is this is the break that these youth are looking for. And the reason why I say that is because not only is it just it's restricted to just people within the age range, but because it's so small, we're really able to focus on these youth and give them the case management, come up with their housing options, teach them life skills. We're there to basically try to set them up for future success. So that's why whenever we're talking to a client, I describe it like I said, this is the break that you're looking for. Next slide. So the mainstay shelter, like I said, is for 18 to 24-year-olds. It's up to a 30-day program. So 30-day stay, I should say. So within those first 30 days, we're hitting the ground hard as far as turning in applications for more long-term options. We also address their mental health. We want to make sure that, we're not only trying to get them housed, but also trying to set them up for as much success as possible. So more often than not, the clients that we come across are dealing with some type of mental health challenge, like whether it be depression, anxiety, PTSD, things of that nature because of their past, of the reason why they're on the streets, or just by being on the streets for however many nights or days or weeks that they have been on there. That constant stress of being on the street will just wear their mental health down over time and lead to physical problems as well. So again, we want to make sure that we try to address their needs as much as possible, and especially their mental health. Next slide. So when I mentioned earlier that the mainstay, they try to focus on long-term options, one of those long-term options is our transitional living program. This is for 18 to 21-year-olds, and this is a program designed for these youth to basically live rent-free. I say rent-free in quotation marks because they are required to have a job, but that doesn't mean that we're going to go ahead and, take their money and keep it. They are required, like I said, to have a job, but what we do is we take half of their paycheck and put it in the savings account for them. And we do that for two primary reasons. One, so that way we can mimic rent. So when they're on their own, they're used to budgeting. They're used to saying, okay, this amount of money I have, this is for my rent. This amount of money is for what I have for food, for gas, for fun, for groceries, other bills, what have not, right? And the other reason why we do it is so that way when they're done with the program, they have a nest egg already set. So if, COVID comes back with a fury and they lock us down again, these youth have a nest egg if they were to lose their job to still be able to continue to pay their rent and not have to end up back on the streets again or end up having to come back to the program or seek other resources. As far as programs goes, for the TLP, Transitional Living Program, we have one located here in Riverside and another one out in the Thousand Palms, right next to our youth shelter. It's called the Harrison House. So to kind of do a quick little recap, there are 2 youth shelter programs, one in Riverside, one in Thousand Palms, 2 transitional living programs, one in Riverside, one in Thousand Palms, and only one 18 to 24-year-old emergency shelter that's located in Riverside. And again, there's no geographical restrictions. Youth from anywhere in the county are able to access any of those programs subject to availability. Like I said, the only geographical restriction is they just have to be a Riverside County resident. Next slide. And this is a picture of our Thousand Palms location for the Harrison House of the Desert or the Transitional Living Program out there. Next slide. Perfect. So in addition to the housing programs, we have the street outreach program. So this is my program. And what we do is not only do we go out into the community and try to find these youth and try to get them the resources by walking the streets, what we do is do these presentations for pretty much anybody and anybody that will listen, whether it be schools, whether it be private businesses, county programs. The more people that we can reach out to about Operation Safe House, the better. Like I mentioned to you before, we'll talk to anybody and everybody. Doesn't matter if you're dressed to the nines or if you look like you're homeless or whatever the case is, because even if you don't need our services or our assistance in the future, you might know somebody that would. Especially when we talk to these youth, they say, a lot of times they'll come up as like, why are you talking to me? I'm not homeless. I'm like, well, I didn't think you were. I'm just trying to explain to you who we are in case you know of somebody, in case one of your cousins, a friend, a family member, what have you. And you never know when this might be needed. Next slide. So in addition to doing the community outreach and doing the street outreach, when we do come across those clients, and we can do what's called case management or offer them the same services that they would get at our emergency shelter, the mainstay, but from an offsite basis. Unfortunately, there are times where all the local shelters could be full, our mainstay shelter could be full, and we would just have to work with these youth from and a street-based opportunity. We go to them, we'll meet with them, we'll take them the applications if they need to fill anything out. We have survival kits that we can give to them, some food, some water, some hygiene products, get them connected with mental health resources like taking them to or advising them of the local TAY drop-in centers like Stepping Stones or the Arena or the Desert Flow. What we try to, like I said, we try to do is try to give them as much help and support as we can. And as we'll constantly be looking for programs and run it by them and see, what they fit for, what's more comfortable for them. What I tell my teams is, look, it's not up to us as outreach workers to tell them what to do. It's to give them as many resources and options and explain the resources and options to them so that way they can make the best decision for themselves. Next slide. In addition, we have a Cup of Happy division, our Cup of Happy program. It's basically our mental health program, but they focus more on preventative mental health. So they'll work with a lot of schools, a lot of high schools to do like group sessions, speakers bureaus, where they'll have people come in and talk about their personal stories of what they overcame, their homelessness, that kind of thing. They have a really good support group for anybody that's part of the LGBTQIA community. And again, their focus is more on preventative mental health, so that way they can best teach coping skills and best equip these youth to be able to handle the stresses of growing up. High school can be a tough time for a lot of students, whether it's they're facing bullying, whether they're having problems at home. We want to make sure that we try to remove the stigmas from reaching out for mental health and just try to prepare them and give them the help and support that they need, so that way they can not ever have a situation where they might be considering whether harming themselves or running away, or whatever the case is. Next slide. In addition to that, we do have an anti-human trafficking program. They tend to focus on the minors. What was really shocking to me when I first started working here is the average age of somebody that's been trafficked is between the ages of 12 and 14. And if you notice, we don't say boy or girl because it doesn't matter. These traffickers will pick up anybody that they can and will try to exploit them, no matter if they're male or female. And when we talk to a lot of the survivors, they've mentioned that they got first approached by somebody looking to exploit them within the first hour of leaving their home, within the first hour of being homeless or being out on the streets, which, like I said, is very scary, but it's such a big reality. So like I mentioned to you several times already in this presentation, just as how we are really good at going out and finding the youth, there are those that are just equally as good that are looking to exploit them. Next slide. And so the whole goal of the Anti-Human Trafficking Division is to restore the dignity of the victims. And that we work closely with the RCAT and local law enforcement divisions to help combat human trafficking. Next slide. And we have our very own app that you can download on your phone. And believe it or not, homeless and runaway youth, they do have cell phones. They do have access to their phones. They're quite popular hangout spots are the local coffee shops because they want to charge their cell phones. And so when we always come across somebody, we always tell them about our app. It's called What's Up Safe House. And the reason why I do it is for various reasons. One, they can connect with us. They can send us emails. They can find out information about our programs. But additionally, and more importantly, we offer a free text communication system so if they're ever, in a bad situation, they can reach out to a licensed clinician between the hours of 7 a.m. and 11 p.m. that's completely anonymous and talk through whatever it is going on. So if they're, having a bad day, the darkness, the depression is just creeping up on them, when they don't feel like they can confide in their friends for fear of, being stigmatized, or they can't, talk to their family members because, they just don't get it. They'll say, just tough it up. Just don't, just be happy. Well, like, I don't understand, why can't you just be happy, right? Those are the, the worst things you could say to somebody that's struggling with depression. So we created the app and this program so that way you can reach out to somebody, during that time, and it's completely anonymous. So you don't have to worry about, somebody finding out that you utilized it, but it's there to help those situations when, like I said, when the darkness is creeping in and you feel like you have nobody to talk to. Yeah, completely free. Next slide. So those are pretty much the programs that we offer from Operation Safe House. Now, the next common question that I always usually get is, well, how do we get connected to you, or how do we access? So those 2 cell phone numbers that you see on there are for my team and my partner's team, Monte. He covers. We have another team that covers out in the Riverside area. We have a total of 5 outreach workers, 2 teams, and then we also have a team out in the desert. But primarily, those are the 2 best contact phone numbers, generally speaking, between normal business hours. And in the chat box, I can type in the youth, the youth shelter phone number, because they are 24/7. But the way that the process works is you just reach out to us. If you're calling with a referral, we'll take down the youth's information and we'll reach out to them, do our screening, start our process. If you hand this information over to youth directly, they can call in, and like I said, and we can give them resources on the spot. Now, I've mentioned to you before that our programs are primarily for Riverside County residents. So what happens, if somebody outside the county calls in? What I tell my team and what I tell everybody is like, look, we'll never say no. Whether or not we can directly help you, that will need to be determined if you live in the county or not. But let's say you're from San Bernardino. We have a resource list, our resource binder, that we can help get connected to somebody that can help in that county. So even if you call in from like San Diego County, I've had a couple calls from Arizona before, my team and everybody at Operation Safe House, we're not just gonna say, sorry, can't help you. we'll say, all right, well, give me 1 second. Let me see what I can find as far as like what's close by to you. And we'll always go that extra mile to at least point them in the right direction. Because the worst thing that a youth can encounter is getting a long list of telephone numbers and saying, here, call, right? When we give our referrals out, we know that, hey, this is a real program that can help, because we don't want to just, give 1,000 numbers out to somebody and then, they're going to give up hope, right? We want to get them connected to the right people so that way they can get the help that they need. Any questions?
Thank you, AJ.
No problem. I
Any
see a couple of hands up.
questions?
Jacqueline?
Hi, AJ. I have a quick
Hello.
question.
Sure.
I heard something today and it kind of baffled me, so I don't know if it's correct, and I just wanted to see if you knew the answer. Is it true that when youth are foster youth and they run away or whatever the case may be, they don't use Amber Alerts for foster youth?
That I have not heard before, and I don't believe that's the case. I mean, I can't imagine that would be the case, but I can look it up or I can research that for you. I have several connections in law enforcement, and I can follow up with, but I have not heard that one before.
I was just curious because I heard that and it seemed strange, but I was like,
Yeah,
ask. Thank you.
yeah, it seems very strange. But like I said, I'll double check for you. Like I said, I have several connections in law enforcement. Gina?
Hello? Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, there was some noise coming in. How do you keep up? I mean, you just mentioned about, having resources at your fingertips. How do you arrange to keep up with that? I mean, how many do you have volunteers in numbers that, sit and daily check? Because as we know, services like this change every single minute.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes, definitely. It just goes by just like I said, personal experience. So when we are doing outreach or doing events, we come across other agencies and we get to know them. That's how we build our rapport. That's how we build our resource list. And then as every now and then, usually part of our training program too is we will go say, hey, sit down. You can give these organizations a call, verify that they're still around and still working, and find out details about their program, and then go from there. So every few months or so, we'll go through and just kind of just keep up to date to make sure like programs are still working on or still working, so to speak, because like you said, it is true that the programs can run out of funding or dissolve or whatever the case is, and that's no longer a valid option. And like I said, like I mentioned to you earlier, the worst thing we can do is give somebody hope and then like, hey, call these people, they'll help you, and then they're like busy or out of signal, or there's no phone numbers no longer in service. Now that youth is now going to get extremely discouraged, and that also costs a little bit of a trust between us and them, because as outreach workers, trust is paramount. It's huge. We got to make sure that when we say something or we commit to something, we follow through. Because for these youth, they've been let down so many times that they, their faith can be shaky, and we want to make sure that we don't ever promise something that we can't keep. But yeah, we just usually, like I said, we'll call from time to time and go through the list. But we also develop partnerships and work with other organizations to help build that network and resources.
do you share the information with other organizations as well? Like once you've compiled a resource list?
Yeah, so every now and then, like when we familiar ourselves with other partners, we all talk. Outreach is a small community, so like if CityNet will call in and say, "Hey, I'm having trouble with a client. I'm not quite sure what program would be good for them." Like we would do what's called case conferencing every now and then, not necessarily like an informal like sit down meeting, but just every time it's just. I mean, I've reached out to partners before and like, hey, swag, what resources do you have? Do you have any other programs or any other ideas for, this client that I'm working on? So we'll, it's a small community, and we want to make sure that we all try to help each other out as much as possible. So we do a lot of sharing of programs.
Okay, but I mean, in terms of once you've compiled the information, in a usable format, whatever, can you send it to any agency if they requested the list?
I'd have to check with my director, but I don't see why not.
Okay. And I just kind of want to make it a footnote. You talked about the trust issue. It's not just the kids. I've been trying to work with adults, and the exact same issues you were talking about are there with adults.
Yes,
and I think
definitely.
that anybody that is doing outreach of any kind, whether on a phone or whatever, should try and keep that in their minds as well. They need to develop trust and don't expect it like the first call kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's natural, for new outreach workers to, want to, do everything they can to help, to, it's like, don't worry, we're going to take care of you. It's like, well, we'll just, like, as much as you want to say that, right? You got to make sure that we don't, put the wrong impression in their heads. We want to be able to give them hope, but also be still realistic, because again, we don't ever want to lose that trust, lose that faith in us, because, once that happens, it'll, they, why do they have to, if we give them another referral, why are they going to trust us again,
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely. You are definitely correct in that regard.
Thank you.
All right, a quick question from Monique, and then if you have any other questions for AJ, please put them in the chat box so that we don't run behind on Beth's presentation.
Thanks, Melanie. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hello. Okay. No, I was just gonna, if I may comment to, was that Gina who asked about the youth directory? I just wanted to let you know that we also have a youth directory, which is part of the initiative that I started on when I got to the continuum of care. So I can definitely share that with you, Gina, if you want to go ahead and put your email in the chat, and it has all of the youth resources thus far that I've collected. And it does come with a flyer where any organization can click that link and add their organization and their resource to this directory. So that's actually a really great thing to bring up right now. So I'll go ahead and put that link for that flyer, and I will email that. So go ahead and put your link in the chat. Thank you so much.
I already have your contact information. I'm the first one in the chat.
And I want to say, Monique, that I think we gave you our list too.
Yeah, I compile it and just make sure that, we have all of the up-to-date resources. So thank you so much, AJ and Operation Safe House, for always letting us know what's going on with youth and youth resources.
Perfect.
All right, and with that, we'll move on to Beth Bartholomew from RCOE.
Thank you. Monique, we have a list too, and we're working on updating it, but we have from across the entire county in all areas, so mental health, homeless services, everything. So we're going to be updating it by the end of winter break, hopefully, so we can send that to you when we're done.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Beth. I'm excited about your presentation. And yeah, I think I will also update ours as well and send it out beginning next year to our COC. So Beth, when you send that over, we can definitely send it out to our COC partners, our youth advisory committee partners, everyone who comes to these meetings and these multidisciplinary approach series. So that's awesome. Thank you so much, Beth.
Okay, perfect. All right, so thank you for having me today. I'm Beth Bartholomew, Director of Pupil Administrative Services for the Riverside County Office of Education. So I joined the team in August, but I am not new to foster and homeless services. I've been worked in Riverside County at Moreno Valley School District for 10 years in this capacity. Then I've worked in San Bernardino County for the last 5 years up in the high desert. So next slide, please. So today we're going to talk about the definition of homelessness. So school districts, we work under the McKinney-Vento Act, which is a federal act that defines what homelessness is for us for the purposes of serving youth. And it does differ from HUD's definition. So we have a little broader range for who we can serve. So children who lack fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence. There is no minimum income requirement, no age limit, and no time limit. So it includes youth sharing housing because of housing loss, which is probably the most common group that we serve, are doubled up. So economic hardship or similar reasons. So 2 families, 3 families cohabitating in one home, most often due to economic hardship. Those living in hotel, motel, trailer park, campground, due to lack of alternative housing. So are unsheltered, those living in emergency or transitional shelters. And then children or youth with a primary nighttime residence that is a public place not designed for sleeping accommodations. So those that would maybe be living in a bus station. It could also be let's go back. That group would be like those living in a converted garage, so it's not intended as a sleeping accommodation. And then children or youth living in cars, parks, places, public places, abandoned buildings such as train stations, bus stations, or similar situations. And then migrant youth also qualify because their living conditions often fit this criteria. So we're going to look at the definition of fixed, regular, and adequate on the next slide, please. So fixed housing means it's not easily moved. So those living in trailers, motorhomes would qualify under the McKinney-Vento provision. Regular housing would be this students staying in the same place every night. So not those students who are couch surfing or moving from relative to relative or friend to friend. So daily, weekly, or monthly, if they are moving like that, they would qualify under the McKinney-Vento provision. And if their living conditions, they have to meet the basic needs, such as having running water, and that does not mean a hose going in the window from one house to the next. They have electricity and not by an extension cord from their neighbor's house. They have heat, and their living conditions are not overcrowded. So that means that each student has their own bed, not necessarily their own bedroom, but their own bed, and that they have a place with privacy, heat, water, and electricity. So often we have examples of one student sleeping on the couch because all the bedrooms are taken with other family members, aunts, uncles, cousins, neighbors, relatives, and so on. Okay, next slide, please. So the reason I want to highlight, because this fits the theme of Runaway, is there's a category called unaccompanied minor, also known as unhoused youth. An unaccompanied minor are those youth and children not in the physical custody of their parent or guardian, and they can enroll themselves in school. So if they have no age limit, eligibility would be based on their current housing situation. This includes pushed out and runaway youth. And even if the parent has offered or for them to return to their home, if they feel it's not a safe place for them to be, they're not accepted there, such as some of our transgender LGBTQ youth don't feel it's the most appropriate or mentally stable place, stable for their mental health. It's not their best place for them to be. They can decline for them to return, and that does not make them ineligible under this provision. So unaccompanied, though, does not in itself make them homeless. What does make them qualify as homeless is what their housing situation is. It does have to be fit the definition that I gave you previously. So, for example, let's say grandma decided to take them in this week, but is getting tired of their behavior and says, you got to go back home. I'm going to give you a couple weeks to find someplace to go. Even if it qualifies as fixed and adequate because it's got heat, running water, electricity, and all of that, and the student has a place with privacy, it's not considered regular because that student can be booted at any point in time. Or if they're staying at a friend's house and the friend's letting them, I got a call when I first got here, the student had been living in the friend's closet for several months. Well, that's not really considered adequate. So all of those students, they're still considered unaccompanied and would qualify under homeless provisions for resources and support from the school. Okay. Next slide. So rights of youth that qualify under this provision, they are entitled to remain in the school of origin. School of origin is defined as the school that they last attended when permanently housed, they most recently attended, or the school that they were most closely connected to within the last 15 months. So one of those three, whatever the student or feels is most appropriate. They're entitled to immediate enrollment, including being in and attending classes and participating fully immediately, even if they lack appropriate records such as immunization records, proof of residency, prior school records, etc., regardless of their history of absences, behavior history except expulsions, and whether they have outstanding fines or fees that the prior school has documented. They still get enrolled immediately. They still get textbooks issued to them. They still have full access to the scope and services offered by the school that all of the peers would enjoy. They still get access to all of that, regardless of outstanding fines, fees, and not having any records with them. They're automatically eligible for the free meal program, not required to complete an application, and the meals begin the day of enrollment. And they're entitled to transportation to remove the barriers to enroll and attend school, including extracurricular activities. So, but the last school prior to becoming an unaccompanied minor or qualifying under the McKinney-Vento program, the student was a football player, but now because they're couch surfing, they're living with a friend, the only person who would take them in, or staying at Safe House, and they want to be on the football team, then the district has to work with them to provide that transportation in order to get them home from practice. But let's say they go back home and they end up in a stable housing situation, and it's March. All of these services still apply through the end of the school year. Okay, next slide. High school age youth are entitled to partial credit from schools. So there's a formula that schools use to award partial credit. If they transfer after their second year of high school, so it's in the 11th or 12th grade, they become eligible for the state's minimum graduation requirements, which is a reduced credit diploma. They're entitled to individualized information and counseling to support college readiness, applying for college financial aid, FAFSA, and on-campus assistance. And they also, if they are unaccompanied, they must be assisted with FAFSA verification, because it does require a letter from the school district stating that they were an independent student. So that way they do not need parent income information to apply for FAFSA and for college financial aid. The school will write a letter saying that they're an independent student. So that's what service is. Now, additionally, school districts have a homeless liaison. Next slide. Please. Hopefully I put that in. So school districts are required to have a McKinney-Vento liaison that they serve students TK through high school graduation. There's a list available on our website, rcoe.us. And there's also a direct link if this presentation has been sent out. Most liaisons have the ability to provide clothing, new clothing, shoes, socks, jackets. So clothing assistance. Some districts offer like Hemet. They're in the next few weeks can provide assistance with laundry. They have a food pantry. In addition to the transportation, they can help students of the right age apply for, at no cost, California identification cards, request birth certificate records, and so on. So the homeless liaison or McKinney-Vento liaison is a good person to encourage the youth that you come into contact with to reach out to. They do not need a parent to reach out. They can reach out on their own. And that person is to act as an advocate on behalf of the youth, the unaccompanied minor. They can walk them through all the steps and procedures they need to be enrolled in school, get caught back up, and provide assistance and support as they're going through their education. Just on a side note, since I'm here and you're there, and I know you may come in contact with homeless youth and families, we are hosting our inaugural Winter Wonderland event, a county-wide event for children who reside in our county and their families between TK and 12th grade on December 11th at the Convention Center. We will be providing a traditional holiday meal, fully catered holiday meal, as well as a keynote speaker for parents on self-care during the holidays, parents and guardians. We know this is a tough time for parents, especially when their kids' friends may be getting all kinds of fancy toys and they can't provide it. So how to take care of themselves and their children during these times, as well as, COVID has hit pretty hard. So how to take care of it and knowledge and take care of yourself. So we have a keynote to address that for parents. We have community agencies attending, and if you have an agency and you'd like to join us, we'd be happy to have you. So that's between 11 and 3 on the 11th. And then hope is to give every child a minimum of 3 toys or 3 gifts if it's older, some gift cards. And then there's 3 breakouts. So kids are going to get to experience decorating cookies, not necessarily all holiday cookies, an ornament or magnet, again, not necessarily holiday, as well as making calming bottles and learning about mindful breathing and self-care for themselves. And then we have photo booths where they can take one with Santa, as well as just a winter themed photo and actually take the pictures with them. So that's what we've got planned on the 11th, all at no cost to our families. So the flyer is attached, but I will email it right now. There's the QR code and the RSVP link. They just need to sign up just by the parent name and the number of kids they're going to bring. We'll have them actually register at the event that day in case we need to do some contact tracing. So that's what I have, and I will be here for questions.
Also wanted to let everyone know a copy of the presentation with this flyer are added to our website when the video is posted later today.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any questions for either of our speakers? Great job, both of you. AJ, do you have a question?
Not necessarily a question. I just wanted to add one more thing. In addition to being the field manager over for Operation Safe House, I'm also serving as a 2022 Youth Point Time Count Coordinator. So I just wanted to share just a few little tidbits about what we're planning. So the Point in Time Count happens every year, and I'm coordinating the youth aspect of it. So in addition to the street-based count where we go try to find youth, we are organizing what are called Come and Be Connected events. There's one per supervisory district. And what these events are is it's there for homeless youth, runaway youth, or anybody that's living on the streets that's between, like I said, the ages of 18 and 24, can get resources and be connected to other programs, whether it be housing, whether it be for help getting your documents like license, birth certificate, social security card, get connected with, sign up for Medi-Cal, IEHP, that kind of thing. So it's happening January 26th, 27th, and 28th. Once we get a flyer, I will share it with everybody so that way we can spread the word out and get these youth connected. If you are interested in helping and with the count itself or with these events, I'll drop my information in the chat box and feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.
Thank you, AJ. And I see Laura Gonzalez has her hand up as well.
Thank you, Melanie. I have a question regarding the schools. I know that the schools conduct a point in time count for their students. I believe that it's coordinated through the schools. Is that something that continues to happen?
So the schools, there was a new law that was just signed in as an urgency legislation. So we have been required to do a homeless questionnaire every year but there wasn't really any push to it. So we would just ask at the time parents enrolled, is your child homeless? Are you homeless? And so how it was done was different every year. But now we are required to basically do it every year. So there's new requirements. So it will be done before June. So every school will question every student or every parent by the end of the school year, and it will be repeated annually. So if they're doing it as part of their student information process, that's fine, but they also then have to do a survey of all currently enrolled students. So that's the new challenge for schools, is how they're going to do that. So that's the piece that's been missing, is we're good about getting all the new students, but not every school has been good at getting currently enrolled. So they will have to get currently enrolled students every year.
And with that, I don't know if you know this, Elizabeth, but would that include information about students that are couch surfing?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So we have to question, we have to get the nighttime residents. So are they unaccompanied? And then what is their nighttime residence? So are they doubled up? Are they unsheltered? So we will have a little more information than what the HUD definition requires, because we are allowed to do doubled up, but you guys could just exclude that information.
And the reason why I'm asking this is because we, the Come and Be Connected events that AJ was mentioning about the point in time count is kind of our way to connect youth that may be experiencing housing instability to resources.
Right.
So we have those youth that are living in the streets and might be engaged by homeless outreach teams like Operation Safe House. So they might be familiar with some of the resources out there compared to those youth that are still living with friends or living with family, but are a step away from losing their housing. And so would it be as simple as us sharing the flyer with you, Elizabeth, to see if the homeless liaisons could help us disseminate those flyers to those individuals that they feel would benefit from attending at Come and Be Connected event?
Yeah, that's fine. We do a county-wide CWA meeting every year, but every month, but our next meeting isn't until January, and I think it's after after the point in time count, because our next meeting I don't think is till the 27th of January. So I think that's after.
Oh,
so,
yeah. It's during that week. The youth count is a 3-day event, so it starts Wednesday, January 26th, and it does go to the 28th.
So if you want to, we can put you on the agenda on the 27th if you want to present to all of the CWA staff, to the directors and homeless liaisons. Otherwise, we'll just send it out through the listserv to everybody. If you want to put like an email together with the flyer of the information you want them to have, and we can send it out to everybody.
We would greatly appreciate that. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, most definitely. Even if it falls in the middle, like I said, that still gives us at least the rest of that afternoon and then the next day.
So you want to be on the agenda to present, or you're going to send me an email to get out sooner than that? Or both?
Is both possible?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, yeah. Definitely the email so that we can get the word out.
Okay.
But yeah, if we can come by and speak, that would be great as well.
Well, it's Zoom. It's on Zoom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we can, I can give you about 10 to 15 minutes because our agendas are very tight.
We would appreciate that. We'll take that. Thank you.
All right, so my email's on that presentation. I'll just drop it in here too, though. So just email me the flyer that you need and the little snippet of what you want what you want them to know.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Give Something Back's going to be on that day too. So I don't know if you know about Give Something Back, but they we're contract with them. They do scholarships and mentoring for foster and homeless youth. So you might want to stick around that morning and at least hear them. They're an amazing organization. And they even continue mentoring the kids through college.
That's awesome, Beth. Thank you, everyone. And just a reminder, we are going dark on our webinars in December. And our next one coming up in January, the date to be determined over the next few weeks as we solidify the COC calendar for the year. Will be on LGBTQ+ and non-binary. So we look forward to having that webinar in January.
Yes, and I just wanted to quickly thank Beth and AJ again for coming and presenting to us. Great information. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Yes. Everyone have a good afternoon.
And happy Thanksgiving and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's to everyone.
Thank you, Melanie. Yes.
Happy holidays.
Bye-bye.
Hey, Melanie.
Yes.
Sunday just put a really good suggestion in the chat. Maybe we could look into having this agency Give Something Back present or the COC. I don't know. Maybe a multidisciplinary approach meeting or just reaching out.
They're amazing. So if I could have just like 2 minutes to explain. So basically they partner with school districts and they take kids that have foster, homeless, or incarcerated parents or formerly any of those categories. And they start mentoring them through, they'll take it early, like 7th and 8th grade. And then they'll get them caught back up. So if they're behind, they tutor them throughout the school year to get them back on track. And then they bring them, they have monthly activities at the college at San Bernardino, Cal State. And so it's on Saturdays. So they can start building a network of peers that they can rely, like build a family kind of, that our kids are often lacking. So they're building their support system of adult mentors, their support system of peers that are like-minded, because often the kids are hanging out with don't necessarily want to go to college. So they're building like-minded peers. They're getting familiar with being on a college campus, eating in the commons and so on. And so this is going on. And then they bring them onto campus for the summer for a week and they get to stay in the dorms. And then they get exposed to being in the classrooms and so on. They actually do seminars in the classrooms. And so then if the kids make it to the point where they're going to graduate and be successful applicants for college, they have a philanthropist who I'm going to go meet right now, Bob Carr, who ran a credit card transaction company and made billions and sold it. And so he's giving back by pre-purchasing scholarships. So this program is all over the country. And then he came to California and he pre-purchased scholarships at University of Laverne, Chapman, and Cal State San Bernardino for our group of kids. And so basically, if our kids want to go to those colleges and they get accepted, they're automatically given a 4-year scholarship, room, board, books, tutoring, meals, everything. But the mentors don't leave. The mentors stay with them through college to make sure they're successful. They have somebody because like when I went to college, if I had a problem, I called my mom. Right. Foster kids and homeless may not have that. So they can always call their mentor that they've now got a multi-year relationship with. They don't ever leave them, they stay with them. But if the kids leave our region because of the high transiency, this program exists in other counties and other states. So they get to continue. They don't leave the program. They get to continue and perhaps it's a different college that they may go to. But if they don't want to go to one of our colleges, then they will help them get accepted into another college. And now they're even doing trade schools because they've acknowledged there's a lot of kids that don't want to go to a 4-year university. So they're helping them on that path now as well. The director in our region is a forensic pediatrician. She's phenomenal, absolutely amazing. And so he's now funded a mental health unit, a juvenile mental health unit for children of child abuse at Loma Linda, and that's opening in December. So our kids now have access to that, and it's part of the program. They don't have to pay. So if this team determines they need mental health services, they just send them straight to Loma Linda.
Wow, that sounds wonderful.
Yeah. So our COE is purchasing 60. Well, basically, we're paying for the mentoring services. The scholarships already take care of. We're paying for the mentoring services. We're going to start with 60 kids for the next 2 years. And then if we need, depending, if we have lots of kids, we've got lots more money that we'll put more kids in. But we're going to start with 60 and then a summer camp for 50 kids to get them interested. Like 50 kids say no. Okay, well, will you at least come to the summer camp for us? And then if we get the kids interested through the summer camp, then we'll put them into the program.
Thank you. Thank you for that summary. Yeah. Sounds like a great program.
Yeah, they're amazing. So and then there's another program so I don't know if you know about Care Portal. They're another one you might want to look at. So Care Portal leverages churches to meet the needs of homeless and foster to keep people out of becoming system involved. And so that contract's already in place. So DPSS already has a contract, and then we have a contract. So all of Riverside County is already covered. So if you just go through the schools, or if you've got a family in need and you can't go through the schools, you can come through our office. But they bought a student at foster youth who was graduating a car at Riverside Unified. We've gotten car repair done. We've had furniture, a house burned down. We've had furniture replaced. Clothes. Let's say you've got a family who can pay rent. They just can't get the first, last, and security deposit done, but they work so they can do rent. We've gotten that covered. So we've gotten first, last, and your security taken care of. We've had utilities paid. I've had funeral expenses paid. It's a great organization, and it's called Care Portal. And Savannah loves coming and talking about it. So Savannah, I don't remember her last name, but Savannah is the local rep, and I can get you in contact with her. But they're already up and running. The services are already the portal's already covered. So it's just a matter of like giving Safe House a link for them to be able to put needs in.
Did you say it's CARE, C-A-R-E portal?
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah. So since Safe House has an RCOE school, we can make sure they get a link, and then they can start putting needs for kids in.
Wow.
Awesome. Thank you, Beth. We'll definitely reach out to you to get more information on those
Perfect.
programs.
All right.
But we'll go ahead. We are 5 minutes over the hour. So go ahead and wrap this up. Everyone take care. Have a good rest of your day. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you, Beth. That was amazing. Thanks, Mel, for always doing this. Mel, I have a question for you.
We'll talk offline.
Okay. Bye.